This video is going to be about spirituality and narcissism and how to avoid toxic people. Hey superstar, Gavin is here. This video is going to be about spirituality and narcissism. In the next video, we're going to be talking about spirituality and the law of attraction and how to approach the law of attraction in the right way. It's going to be transformative, so make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell for that video. Spirituality and narcissism. So people who are empaths, people who are empathic, tend to attract narcissistic and toxic people. And the reason for that is because they are people who are prey for narcissists. So if we've got empath on one side of the equation, if we're looking into duality, one side of the equation is empath, the other side of the equation is narcissistic people. Now, narcissistic people like people who are weak, right? Who look weak, who they look like, oh, I can take advantage of that person. They like these kinds of people. They feed on these kinds of people's energy. When that person feels low, they feel good. All right. However, someone who is not empathic, they can't get that same source of energy from them. And so what they do is they prey on them. It's kind of interesting. I actually had a call the other day with my coach, and he was talking about him being unconfident. And then he went to martial arts. He started learning self-defense. And as he started to master self-defense, he was carrying a different energy. He was carrying an energy of confidence within himself that he could protect himself, that he doesn't take any bullshit. And so when you carry that energy, now you no longer become susceptible to a robber robbing you, right? To attacking you, whatever it is, because they can see, I'm not going to mess around with that person, right? They can see it. And so the same goes in nature. When an animal looks like they can't defend themselves or they look like prey, the animal that is attacking is not necessarily going to go for someone who looks like they can defend themselves. They're going to go after someone who looks weak. Now, as an empath, I don't necessarily see empaths as weak. I actually see it as a power. And what we don't have, or what we're not taught, is to have certain boundaries, certain red flags, and cultivating them. Because what I found on my own journey is that you can have boundaries and red flags, but totally not follow them, right? Because you're empathic and you find a way to make it okay about someone's behavior when it's negative. You find some sort of way to make it justified, which is a really, really bad thing to do. And so what we want to do is we need to cultivate beliefs around the red flags that we are creating, but also we need to approach ourselves and our lives from loving ourselves. Loving ourselves is very important. It's one of the most important things that we can do. So we need to love higher power and connect in with the energies and have that connection, that sort of love flowing through you, but then also self-love. And when you have that self-love, it really creates a new dynamic. And when you set those red flags and boundaries, you're able to be like, okay, no, that's unacceptable. We don't do that. I don't like these people. I'm not going to cut that person out, because you love yourself enough to have that. And recently I had a coaching call with one of my students, and we were talking about this. And I was saying, if you can imagine yourself as a cell in your body, the cells in your body, they all work together, right? Let's just say that all of these other cells love themselves, and then you didn't love yourself. That particular cell, one of the cells, didn't love themselves. Now, that one cell not loving themselves is going to now affect all the other cells. It's all one organism. And so if you see yourself as the center, which you are the center, you are the universe, universe, right? When you see yourself as the center, now you will realize that you are not going to attract good love, or you're not going to be able to sustain good love over the long run if you are not functioning on love, right? Higher power love, self-love, right? Because now you are an organism which is looked at differently, or you're an organism that can't hold space for love. So it's very important that we learn to love ourselves. There's a really good book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. But also what we want to do is neutrality shifting as well, and making loving yourself normal and natural. Because when loving yourself is normal and natural, well, it's going to radically change your life. A lot of us, loving yourself is on a pedestal, or it's beneath you. It's like, I don't really, know how to do that, right? Or you find it hard to do because it's not normal, right? Nobody's taught this in society, and I totally understand what it feels like. I had the resistance myself against looking in the mirror, saying I love myself, or repeating it over and over again. In fact, Louise Hay used to have these affirmations, and I used to listen to them. I'm like, this is bullshit. Couldn't do it. I was pushing it away. And the reason for that is because, again, I was just putting it beneath me. I'm above this, right? And when you do that, you're out of alignment. What you want to do is create neutrality. And that's why we offer neutrality shifting coaching, so loving yourself can become normal. There'll be a link in the description where you can find out more about neutrality shifting coaching. So the two loves, higher power love, self-love. Once you have those two loves, now you are able to operate on a completely different frequency. And when it comes to writing out red flags and writing out your boundaries, you're able to follow through on them because you have that self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love. So I just want to explain what red flags are and what boundaries are, because they're two different things. So red flags are big things that are totally 100% unacceptable in your life, right? I've been recently watching Red Table Talk on Facebook, and Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith, one of their red flags is we don't talk to each other, no shouting at each other, no swearing at each other, none of that. All of that to them is toxic. Red flag, totally unacceptable. We don't do that, right? So those are red flags. Or maybe a red flag for you is someone's in an existing relationship and they're dating and they're trying to date you. Red flag. Because if they can do that to you, then they can do that to someone else. Sorry, if they can do that to someone else, they can do that to you. You see how that works? So if they're doing that behavior already, they're showing you with their actions who they are. Doesn't matter how much you feel for them or how much they feel for you. Their behavior is not conducive with what you want. So it's not a good idea to get into that relationship and make it move further. Red flag. Another red flag could be someone showing up late. Maybe it's a business meeting and someone shows up late 1 minute. And someone shows up late 1 minute. Maybe that's totally unacceptable to you. It's entirely up to you what your red flags are. But in relationships, romantic relationships is where we have a lot of our problems, is that we want to have those red flags. We need to know what they are, and it needs to be clear. I don't accept this, 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 and this, and this, and this. And once you do that, now you are creating this repellent energy. You're repelling toxic people, right? Just like we was talking about the self-defense thing, we're creating a state of being whereby this is unacceptable. And at the same time, you're telling the universe, don't send me these people, right? You're saying, don't send me these people, I repel these people. And it's inviting and creating the energy of what you do want. The next thing here is the boundaries. Now the boundaries is what you can work with, all right? So say someone does something and it's something that you don't like, now you want to have a conversation. All right. If it's pushing one of your boundaries, now you want to have a conversation because they've hit the boundary. That we don't do that. Okay. Let's have a conversation about it. Where can we improve? How can we compensate? How can we compromise and make this more healthy, or whatever it is? So a boundary for you might be banter. In the UK, we have this thing called banter, where people make fun out of people, and they just do it for fun. It's nothing serious or anything like that. But maybe that's one of your boundaries. Maybe you don't want to play games like that. Maybe that's just unacceptable for you, and maybe you want to have a conversation about that. Usually, when it comes to setting boundaries, you're in an existing relationship already, but you can set red flags in an existing relationship as well. But please know, when it comes to narcissism and narcissistic people, you don't want to try and heal it. You don't want to try and work with it. You want to run. Period. There's no changing them. You cannot change a narcissistic person. You cannot change a toxic person. In fact, you don't want to change people at all. You want to accept people for who they are. And if you're constantly trying to change them, now it's, we're feeding into the wrong energy, and we're getting distracted when we can just actually find a partner which is in alignment with who we are, rather than trying to change someone. So narcissistic relationships can be very difficult and very challenging. I know exactly how it feels. And you can develop something called codependency, where you're struggling to leave, and you feel like this person is always lifting you up and then pushing you back down. And you get your validation and your significance from this person. And so if you feel like you're going to leave, you're going to lose all of that validation significance, because you have a lack of significance for yourself. And that's why I was talking about loving yourself first. And as you build that self-love and love yourself enough to do that, it can really change your life. If you feel like you need to leave a narcissistic relationship, you need to get other people involved. All right? Get your friends involved, family involved, where you're able to go ahead and do that. Sometimes, in relationships, we have to go downgrade. Maybe we have to move back in with someone, or maybe we have to travel somewhere, or maybe we have to sell some stuff. It is challenging, but your well-being and your health, your mental, emotional well-being is way more important than, money and what people think of you and stuff like this. Get those loved ones involved, get some sort of support system, and that can really help you out with narcissism. Once you do that, you can focus on your spirituality and your mindset and your growth and your expansion. And it's never too late. You can always start now. Even if it's been a long time that you've been in this particular relationship, you can always leave, move on, and learn how to love again, how to love yourself again. So as an empath, you might not feel, that level of power to make a decision, to create boundaries, to create those red flags. And I've been there. I know what it's like. It takes facing that pain, that emptiness, that void, and jumping into it. And when you can do that, you're doing so much for yourself, so much for your kids, so much for your family, so much for your legacy. You don't want to continue behaviors that is just going to spiral out of control more and more. And so when you have a coach, or when you have a support mechanism, family, friends maybe, and talking about it, communicating, it's going to really help you out. If you're struggling with communication, you can work with the throat chakra. I have a throat chakra video here. But also you want to be working with the lower chakras. There's actually 2 videos that I made on the throat chakra. Ultimately, you could just write a letter. You can send a letter. You can do something, a text. If you can't talk, I totally understand how sensitive you could feel, how sort of paralyzed you can feel in these relationships if you are in one. But ultimately, you want to realize that when it comes to empathy and being empathic, it's actually a power You just didn't have the tools, right? You just didn't know. You didn't know who you was as an empath, and you didn't know how to manage that energy. And when you can learn to manage that energy, the first step, connecting with source, build that relationship, connecting with your heart, build that self-love, create those boundaries, create those red flags. It's gonna help you a lot. But what I'm saying here is you was not taught before. So don't feel bad, don't feel guilty about where you're at right now, right? Don't feel bad. It's just where you're at. This is where I'm at. I've learned some new information right now. What do I plan to do with it? All right. So with that being said, if you know anyone in a toxic relationship or going through a hard time, make sure you send them this video. It can really help them out a lot. And always seek counseling, coaching, or whatever it is. We do offer neutrality coaching, where we make leaving, if you want to leave, if you want to move on, if you want to build that confidence and self-esteem, we can make that happen within just 4 sessions. Okay, and the link will be in the description and in the cards, in the pinned comment. So make sure you go check that out. I love you, I appreciate you. Keep watching these videos. In the next video, we're going to be making a video about the law of attraction and spirituality, the right way of approaching the law of attraction. So make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and there should be some videos coming up on screen right now. Keep watching, keep learning, keep expanding. Peace, peace.